Washingtonian Magazine once referred to Jeremy Gifford, the founder of Walters, as someone who knows how to pack a bar. Walters is located across the street from Nationals Park near the center field gate next to South Capitol Street.
Here's the set, the 2-2. Swing and a miss. He struck him out on a high fastball. Will Dion hops off the mound. He strikes out the side here in the third inning. He's fanned 4 in a row and 6 of the 7 Mets who stood in there against him. Will Dion getting it done. Tying and go-ahead runs on base here in the 6th inning. Pinckney thought about running, doesn't, and the pitch is driven deep down the left field line toward the corner. Will it stay fair? It's back there, and it hits the foul pole screen. It's a 3-run homer, and the Nationals lead it 4-2. Pinckney's not sure he can come in and score. House was standing and watching at home plate. He saw it hit the screen. He can circle the bases with home run number 9. The Nationals have their first lead, 4-2, on a huge 3-run homer for Brady House.
Cruz delivers. Breaking ball, line drive, base hit down the left field line's going to tie the game. Beatty around third will score. Pache to third, held there as the ball comes in from Pinckney to Abrams along the left field line. It's a double for Francisco Alvarez. And it's a blown save for Yovanny Cruz, who's yet to get it out. The game is tied, and the Mets have runners on second and third with nobody out. The Nationals 4, the Mets 4. The right-hander sets. Here's the pitch. Swing and a line drive over the head of Dylan Cruz, and the game is over. The Mets win it. Francisco Lindor is the hero with a line drive base hit into right field, scoring Pache, the pinch runner, with a winning run.
And welcome to Nats Chat. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. I'm joined by Washington Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman of NatsJournal.com. He is at Citi Field in New York City. So the Nats now have lost 4 of their last 5 games and 12 of the team's last 17 games. A 5-4 walk-off loss at the New York Mets on Saturday in Game 2 of a 3-game series, a game in which the Nats overcame a 2-0 fourth-inning deficit but blew a 4-3 ninth-inning lead by allowing 2 runs in the bottom of the 9th. This was some game from a pitching standpoint for the Nats. They went with a bullpen game. Brad Lord was the Nats starting pitcher for the game, but he was a mess, didn't even last for 1 inning. Then we had Will Dion, who was sensational. Clayton Beeter somehow tossed a scoreless bottom of the 8th, despite having no business tossing a scoreless bottom of the 8th. And Yovanny Cruz allowed 2 runs in a third of an inning, including giving up a walk-off, 1-out RBI single by Francisco Lindor to right field on a 1-2 pitch for a 5-4 Nats loss. They now are 60-65, run differential plus 19. The Mets now are a National League East worst 55-69 with a run differential of minus 43. But we say hello and welcome. Nice to have you with us. You on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify can both rate the podcast and write reviews of the podcast. 5-star ratings are greatly appreciated. Positive reviews are greatly appreciated. These things help us out a lot. Thank you very much for doing them. There was so much to this game on Saturday, including home runs by Brady House and Andres Chaparro. The Nats do remain number 1 in MLB in runs, home runs, and stolen bases, but the Nats also remain number 1 in MLB in blown saves. That number now is at 32. Understand this. The Nats have 33 saves and 32 blown saves. The Nats have nearly as many blown saves as actual saves. That's hard to do. And yet the Nats are doing that. Mark, this was a wild game, and this was a really frustrating loss.
The way the first inning went, with Brad Lord not even being able to get 3 outs, and going in it's a bullpen game to begin with, the mere fact that they even got to the 9th inning with a lead is pretty remarkable, and it says a lot about what all those other guys in between were able to do, especially Will Dion. Just a heroic effort out of the bullpen from him, and what the offense was able to do to come back and take the lead. But as we've seen, you still got to get 27 outs somehow, and you're asking for 27 outs out of this bullpen. That's a lot. And they went with a little bit different approach this time in using their 2 best guys, Rabalta and Beeter, to get through the 7th and the 8th and keep the lead intact. Well, somebody still had to pitch the 9th. That somebody was your guy, Yovanny Cruz, and his big arm. That big arm was not up to the task in this game. He couldn't throw strikes. He gave up on his fastball entirely and threw almost exclusively sliders. And the moment became way too big for him to pitch the 9th inning at Citi Field.
Yeah, my guy did not do so well in this game. Time will tell whether he is Aroldis Chapman or Henry Rodriguez. The upside is immense. I mean, I'm not going to get off that. The velocity is just tremendous. But, of course, there's more to pitching than velocity. And what Blake Butera had to say during his postgame session with you guys about Cruz almost being like spooked by that leadoff walk of Brett Beatty.
Yeah, I think confidence is a big part of it, believing in this stuff and being able to attack hitters. Like I said, when you walk the leadoff guy late in games, it's going to come back to bite you.
And how much that seemed to ruin Cruz's confidence in the outing. And I guess that's just something you have to learn as, you get older and gain more experience. But, you don't like hearing that a leadoff walk, which isn't good, like wrecks you for the rest of the outing to where you abandon the fastball like that. Boy, that is not the way Yovanny Cruz should be approaching his outings, given the elite level stuff that he has. And to me, it's disappointing that he let that leadoff walk, get to him in that way. Now, maybe more than just that got to him, the environment in New York City, a Mets team that isn't good, but to me still has plenty of talent. Like this still is a lineup that you look at with the Mets and you're like, okay, they have some decent hitters on this team. It's still kind of hard to figure out how and why the Mets are having the poor season that they're having. But Butera was not shy post-game talking about what went wrong for Yovanny Cruz in this game.
Not looking comfortable throwing certain pitches today. Was that something that he brought to your attention before the game or you've seen?
No.
Yeah, he clearly was not happy at what the approach and the pitch selection was the rest of the way. Now, I think this even goes back to a previous outing and maybe even more than that, when he was having trouble throwing that fastball over the plate. So I think he comes into this game already not feeling great about his command of that pitch. Now, he starts the inning off against Brett Beatty. He walks him on 5 pitches. 3 of them are fastballs, and the last 2 were thrown well out of the zone. So as you said, leadoff guy on via the walk. And now what do? You're still facing their 8 and 9 hitters. And, Jorge Polanco, Francisco Alvarez, these are no slouches. But he's already going into those at-bats with little to maybe even zero confidence in his fastball. And from that point on, he faces 4 more hitters. He threw 18 pitches. 17 of them were sliders. 1 was a splitter. He did not throw another fastball the rest of the game. Now, I understand sometimes you have a feel for one and not the other, and you've got to make some in-game adjustments and just kind of go with what you have. You're in a desperate situation trying to close out a game. You just got to throw whatever you feel most comfortable with. There isn't a pitcher on the planet that can get away with throwing 17 out of 18 of his final pitches as sliders and somehow have success like that. You don't have to be a fastball first guy, but you have to at least have it in your back pocket to throw every once in a while, keep the hitters honest. Even if you can't get it over the plate, you've got to at least give that a shot at some point. And I think that's where the frustration from Butera came in. The way he described it, they were calling for some fastballs, and he was shaking them off because he clearly had zero faith in his ability to throw it for a strike.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up because we know that some teams now will call pitches from dugouts. We know that the Nats are doing this. This has been written about. And so to me, it's like, okay, well, if you want him throwing more fastballs, then call for more fastballs. But if Cruz was shaking him off and refusing to throw more fastballs, there's not much you can do. And, there is like a level of insubordination at that point. Is there not? Like if you as a manager are saying, hey, dude, throw your fastball, and he's refusing to do that, that's not good. Like Cruz should be obeying the manager in a spot like that. It's one thing to shake off your catcher, especially if he's a younger catcher. But if the coaching staff is saying, hey, man, do this, and you're not doing this, that's an issue. That should not be the case, in my opinion.
Sure. Now, what we don't know is the dugout calling every single pitch or only some of them. They've been vague about, they're not calling it for all pitchers, of course, like Cade Cavalli calls his own game. Some others do as well. I've tried to pay attention every now and again. I want to say I looked at one point during that 9th inning and I saw Harry Ford, the catcher, look to the dugout and then go to tap the signals on his PitchCom device. So at least some of those were being called from the dugout. Perhaps not all of them. Regardless, at some point, yes, you have to convey to that pitcher. Like if he shakes it off, you're allowed to signal for it again and just keep signaling for it. You don't have to give another pitch. You can keep signaling for it and see what happens. Now, I'm sure there's going to be a long conversation, if there wasn't already when the game ended, between Yovanny Cruz and Simon Matthews and Sean Doolittle, maybe Blake Butera as well, maybe the catchers. They've got to get on the same page. In the bigger sense here, though, they decided to throw this kid into the fire. 1-run game on the road, Citi Field, try to close it out. He clearly was not ready for that. What do you do now? I think you have to, if he's going to stay up here, you got to find some softer situations to let him work some things out and say, throw your fastball until you can hit the strike zone. You're not going to make it in this league if you can't do that at least some of the time. If they're not confident enough to do that, if they believe that any situation you're putting a reliever into right now is going to be important and the games are on the line, then he should not be in the major leagues. And they should have him go back down to AAA and work on some things before he comes back. Now, we know they're in more of a developmental stage right now than they were a few weeks ago, but they are still trying to win games to some extent. So I will be very interested to see how they approach this now. When do they use him? How do they have him approach those situations? And if he can't handle that, then I think you need to go into the lower pressure environment of Rochester, New York, rather than Flushing, New York.
Well, Blake Butera did say, they now do want to try to get Cruz into some lower leverage spots. I brought this up a few shows ago of what the Nats did about a year ago at this time with Jose A. Ferrer and how they just kind of threw him into the deep water and said, hey, you're a closer. Let's see how you do. And he for a while was doing really well. And I wondered if we might see that with Yovanny Cruz. Well, he got thrown into the deep water in this game, and he did not exactly swim like Greg Louganis at his peak with what we saw in this game. Now, it's worth noting this. So Butera talks about, we used our two best relievers earlier in the game in Orlando Revolta and Clayton Beeter. Revolta was really good, perfect bottom of the 7th. Beeter tossed a scoreless bottom of the 8th in miraculous fashion. Okay, so this idea of, if Beeter had been pitching, things would be fine. Really, are you sure about that? Off what we saw from Clayton Beeter in that bottom of the 8th. This was a wild game when it came to Nats pitchers. So a bullpen game. The Nats ultimately used 6 pitchers in this game. The results were, shall we say, varied. So you start with this. Brad Lord was the Nats starting pitcher for the game. And he was awful. This was not the Brad Lord who we have come to know. I don't know what was going on with him. He didn't even last for 1 inning. He could not find the strike zone. It was full count after full count. He ultimately allowed 2 runs in 2/3 of an inning. He gave up just 1 hit, which was a double, but he issued 4 walks. He recorded a strikeout. He threw an astounding 44 pitches, just 21 strikes versus 23 balls. Now, a big reason this ended up being a competitive game is that the Nats only allowed 2 runs in that first inning, because that first inning had 4 runs, 5 runs, 6 runs by the Mets written all over it. And the Nats did a good job of minimizing the damage in that inning. And a big part of that was Will Dion, who was spectacular in this game. As bad as Brad Lord was, that's how good Will Dion was. 4 1/3 scoreless and hitless innings, 7 strikeouts, 1 walk. Just superb what he provided the Nats in this game. He threw 64 pitches, 41 strikes, 23 balls. We had Tom Cosgrove allowing 1 run in 1 inning. Bottom of the 6th, gave up a leadoff homer by Carson Bench to right field to cut the Nats lead to 4-3. Orlando Revolta, as mentioned, perfect bottom of the 7th. Clayton Beeter, as mentioned, scoreless bottom of the 8th, despite giving up 2 singles and despite issuing a walk into wild pitch. And then we had Yovanny Cruz in that bottom of the 9th. 2 runs, 1/3 of an inning. He allowed 2 runs on a double, 2 singles into walk, gave up a first pitch RBI double by Francisco Alvarez to left field to tie the game at 4, and then gave up the walk-off 1-out RBI single by Francisco Lindor to right field on a 1-2 pitch for a 5-4 Nats loss. So we've talked about Cruz. The juxtaposition of Brad Lord and Will Dion, and how Lord looks so bad and Dion looks so good. First of all, what do you think happened with Brad Lord? Because like I said, this is not the Brad Lord we know. This is very uncharacteristic for him to look like this.
Correct. When he has struggled, it's usually been because he's getting hit. This was walks. 4 of the 7 batters, he walks. He only gave up 1 hit in that inning, a 2-run double by Jared Young. So very out of character for him. Clearly just wasn't feeling it. Now, what was so strange, or the the irony of this, is he starts this game and the intention is for him to go 4 innings if he can do that, because they are trying to stretch him out to be a starter again. And he ends up throwing 44 pitches to 7 batters and can't even get 3 outs. And so it was kind of lost in the shuffle given everything else that happened. But if you're the Nationals, are you continuing with this plan now to stretch him out? Or you're saying, well, hang on a second, this may not be the right way to go. He didn't get the work he needed in this game to continue to be stretched out. do we need to reconsider some things here? So that got kind of thrown out of whack. And it was only because of Will Dion that this game was still competitive after that. Now, here's a guy who was a starter in the minor leagues with the Guardians up until a point last year when they made him into a reliever. Now, when he comes over here in the Foster Griffin trade, he's been a reliever for more than a year, has been a multi-inning reliever, but maybe not quite to this extent. But in his first meeting with Blake Butera and pitching coaches and the front office, he tells them, listen, I'm good for 60 to 70 pitches if you ever need it. I've done it before. I'm comfortable with that. I can be stretched out. Well, little did he know they would take full advantage of that and have him go 4 1/3 innings of relief in this game. He ends up striking out 7, one shy of the club record for a relief appearance.
Just trying to keep the boys in the game. That's pretty much it. Just trying to keep the game as close as possible because these boys can score big score runs. So just trying to keep them close.
He only allowed one batter to reach base. That was via a walk. This is a superhuman effort from the lefty. And I just said, what are you doing now with Brad Lord? Well, you acquired Will Dion to be a reliever. He's been a starter in the past. There's a little bit of Brad Lord in him in this adaptability in do whatever you need me to do. Would you consider flip-flopping that? Would you say, hey, Dion, you're stretched out now a little bit. Let's give you a shot. I don't know. We didn't get into all that at the end of this game because of the way that they lost. But I'd be very interested to hear their intentions moving forward. And if the way this game went would cause them to reconsider any of what they had originally intended to do.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be surprised with how process-driven this team now is if one game altered plans like that. Like, if you really believe in Brad Lord, you shouldn't let one bad outing dissuade you from having him be stretched out into being a starting pitcher. But look, like I said, Dion has been a starting pitcher, and Dion has pitched really well for the Nats during his time with the team so far. Like, of the relievers acquired in the lead-up to the trade deadline, Dion's the guy who's looked the best. 3 appearances, 8 scoreless innings, 8 strikeouts. And what he did in this game, being summoned much earlier than ever anticipated and just hitting the ground running, striking guys out left and right. You could see the confidence building as the outing went on. You can't say enough good things about what Will Dion provided the Nats in this game. But, this is the danger of the bullpen game, right? Is that, when you have to go with 6 relievers, they're not all going to have it, man. Like, you're lucky if 3 or 4 have it. Inevitably, there will be 1 or 2 guys at least who just are off. And that's what you had in this game, right? Brad Lord was just off. Clayton Beeter, in my opinion, was off, although he did toss the scoreless bottom of the 8th. And then Yovanny Cruz was off. And so, you wind up, it's sort of like 50-50 of we'll go with the next guy here, but is he going to have it in this game? I don't know, hopefully. But that's how it is with these guys. And this has been a real issue with this bullpen this season. When guys don't have it, they really don't have it. And that's a big problem with this bullpen. Brad Lord didn't just not have it. He really didn't have it. Yovanny Cruz didn't just kind of sort of not have it. He really didn't have it. And that's why the numbers for this bullpen are so bad, because the bad is especially bad. The bad isn't kind of sort of bad. The bad is really bad. Brad Lord was really bad. Yovanny Cruz was really bad. And that has been an issue for this team.
Yeah, and just like we talk about with some of the young starters about the lack of consistency, hey, you're not going to be at your very best. Cade Cavalli is not going to have his A stuff every single time he takes the mound. But can he find a way on those nights when he doesn't to still get through it and be effective? Well, the same thing applies to a reliever. Now you have less time to figure it out. You're usually only going to have 1 inning in which to try to figure, okay, this isn't working, let me adjust to that, or I got to do something to make this pitch better, whatever that is. So it's a tougher assignment. But you are right in that there have been very few times that a guy has gotten himself into a jam and then gotten himself out of it. I suppose you can say Clayton Beeter did show that in this game in putting the first 3 batters he faced on base and then getting out of it without anybody scoring. So maybe there was something there for him. But for the others, it's going to happen. You're not going to have it. You've got to find a way, whatever it takes. And maybe that's where Cruz was thinking, I don't have my fastball. I better just start throwing my slider and see if I can do this. And that didn't work either. But it does speak to the larger point here of we know who their bullpen arms are. They've mixed and matched. They've tried new guys. It's maybe in a better position than it was a while back. but it's still not good. And so if you're going to make the active decision to actually play bullpen games every 5 days, you're running the risk of something like this happening. And as I said, I agree with you. They're not going to make any big decisions off of one bad performance, but I would be curious if they are reconsidering anything. And if at some point here they say, we need a true starter in this spot because it's too much to ask our relievers, already a very poor relief corps, to cover an entire game once every 5 days, in addition to whatever else they have to do the other 4 days.
Last thing on the bullpen, Lindor comes up with runners on second and third. Why do you think Blake Butera did not intentionally walk Francisco Lindor in that spot?
I had similar thoughts, especially once he fell behind in the count. And we're saying he's still throwing nothing but sliders. And I'm like, well, you know what? Just throw a fastball here. If you throw it, it's ball four, first base is open, you've loaded the bases. Where's the harm in that? Now, obviously, that's not the approach they took. I'm going to guess there was maybe a matchup thing. I know his name is Francisco Lindor, but he's not the guy that we had seen in the past. Maybe they were more worried about Bo Bichette after that. Maybe given Cruz's complete lack of command, they're worried, hey, you load the bases. He's got nowhere to put anybody. And now 4 balls and that's it. Game over. Some of that, it's second and third, 1 out. You're already in a bad spot facing the heart of their lineup. So I don't know if there was a good solution there. But yeah, it crossed my mind. And I think if you had a little more faith in his ability to throw strikes, you go ahead and intentionally walk Lindor and hope, hey, maybe he can get a ground ball, get a double play and get out of this. But clearly that was not going to happen in this game.
Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Now, I was looking for fun ways to tell you that Mint's offer of unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month is back. So I thought it would be fun if we made $15 bills. But it turns out that's very illegal. So there goes my big idea for the commercial. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. See terms.
Sleep Number's new collections are designed to adapt to the changing nature of your life and your sleep needs. Whether it's the personalized comfort of the new Comfort Mode mattress, the targeted pressure relief of the Comfort Next mattress, or the Climate Collection that actively cools or warms to help you fall asleep and stay asleep.
And now, get early access to our biggest sale of the year. Save 25% on the new Comfort Next Luxe for a limited time. Only at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com.
Here's the line of the 0-2. He's made a fly ball driven deep left field for Chaparro. Way back it goes to the wall, and it's gone. Andres Chaparro gets the Nationals on the board with his 7th home run. That cuts the Mets lead to 2-1. He gets an 0-2 fastball and knocks it over the fence and straightaway left.
Well, the Nats offense in this 5-4 walk-off loss at the Mets on Saturday. So-so. 4 runs, 7 hits, which were 2 home runs, a triple, and 4 singles, 2 walks, 1 for 4 with runners in scoring position, 11 strikeouts. So very much a mixed bag, but we did get 2 home runs from the Nats in this game. Brady House as the Nats starting third baseman and number 3 batter, 1 for 4 with a 3-run homer. House in the Nats 3-run sixth, a 1-out 3-run homer off the left field foul pole for a 4-2 Nats lead. And Andres Chaparro homered again. He is the Nats starting first baseman and number 2 batter in the Nats 1-run fourth, a leadoff homer to left field on an 0-2 pitch to cut the Nats deficit to 2-1. The Nats battled back in this game. Will Dion, a big part of that, but the offense part of that too. And, in a game like this, as crazy as it ended up being, the House homer in the moment felt like one of the plays of the game. And that felt like, the kind of thing we'd really be raving about in our post-game discussion, especially with, the dramatic nature of the ball going off the left field pole. And instead it becomes kind of just an, oh, by the way item from this game with how it ended. But, good to see Brady House having the series that he's having so far. He actually had a nice game in game 1 on Friday night, 2 for 3, RBI single, another single, and a hit by pitch. And he homers in this game. And in the moment, that was a really big home run.
It was kind of a Carlton Fisk moment. He just stood there at the plate and waited to see, is it going to go fair or not? It goes off the pole, and then he went around the bases. I know that the overall performance has not necessarily blown you away, but I do feel like I like more of what I'm seeing from him since he came back from AAA than I did earlier in the season before he was sent back down. Having some success against righties, he is getting some chances to face righties, and maybe he hasn't hit the ball super hard, but he's finding holes and he's recording hits off them. Continues to rake against lefties, and that's what this homer was off of Sean Manaea. I think the defense, remember how big an issue the defense was in April and May? We haven't really talked about that at all because I don't think it has been an issue. So I'm glad to see that. Slowly but surely looking better, and the hope would be that there are more of these big hits from him and that by the time we get to the end of September, we're saying, yeah, he is their third baseman moving forward. It's still kind of a platoon job right now with Jorby Vivas, but he is, I think, playing his way into a little bit more playing time. And at this point in the year, with where they are now, those are the things that are going to matter more than anything else. Can a Brady House finish strong and stake his claim for that job next year? Dylan Cruz as well, Dalen Lyle, Harry Ford, a lot of these guys, that's really what these final 6 weeks are going to be about.
Well, his OPS does now start with a 7, so I'm happy to say that. Brady House's OPS now is at 703. For comparison's sake, Dalen Lyle's OPS is 708, so House actually isn't that far from where Lyle is at. And we talked about this when the Nats traded away Curtis Mead. That was an endorsement of Brady House. You know, like, you don't trade away Curtis Mead with years left of team control if you really have serious doubts about Brady House. Like, that seemed to be the team saying, okay, we're not 100% certain about Brady House maybe, but like, we have faith that this guy can be a good player. And, hopefully we see more of that as this goes on here. C.J. Abrams for this game was the Nats starting shortstop. He was also the number 4 batter. He went 0 for 4. I know when the discussion was had in terms of Blake Butera's pregame session with you guys on Friday afternoon about the position switch for Abrams, it wasn't said that he'll be switching right away. When do you think we'll see him play that first game at second base for the Nats?
So I followed up on that pregame Saturday and asked Butera, do you have a particular day in mind, or you just kind of have to wait and see how this goes? He said it's really about whenever Abrams feels comfortable enough to play there in a game.
It's kind of day to day, see how it goes. I had told him when he feels comfortable and feels ready, we would do so.
So they're going to work with him every day there pregame, take his grounders, understand the positioning, all the different nuances of it. And whenever that time comes that he feels like he's ready, they will make that move. Now, I don't know that's 100% up to CJ, because if it was, it may not happen at all this year if he had the true final say on it. So I'm sure they're going to look at what they see and say, okay, I think, we're seeing signs that you could be ready for it. I don't know. He did kind of make it sound like we're talking about a matter of days, not a matter of weeks. My guess is they told us when they did because they didn't want all of us seeing him suddenly working out at second base and asking questions like, well, hey, what's going on here? They wanted to be out in front of that. And so they told us. So now we see it happening and we're not surprised by it. Will it happen Sunday here? Will it happen in Texas, the first few games of the next series? I would be surprised if they make it all the way to Miami next Friday and he hasn't done it yet. I don't know if it'll be Sunday, but if it's not, I would imagine at some point coming up here when they face the Rangers, we will see him at second base.
And then also with the Nats offense in this game, some outs on the base paths in the top of the 7th, and in a game that you lose by 1 run, this is the kind of thing that looms large. Nasim Nunez had a leadoff single, but ended up being tagged out as he officially got caught stealing in an attempted steal. Then the Nats got a 1-out triple by Andrew Pinckney in a great moment, but he ended up being tagged out at home in a flyout, tag-out double play. A great throw by the right fielder, Carson Bench, but man, that was unfortunate. You have Pinckney on third base like that, and you end up not even scoring a single run in an inning in which, like I said, you had the leadoff single by Nasim Nunez. What'd you think about the send there, Pinckney being sent on the tag-up play from third base in the play that resulted in that great throw by Carson Bench?
So off the bat, you could tell this was not a medium deep fly ball. It's going to be shallow right field. And typically you see that and you say, nope, don't try it. Now, Pinckney's one of the fastest guys around. And so I'm sure Victor Estevez, the third base coach, going into it knows I'm going to be more aggressive with him than I would be with a lot of other runners. Make the fielder make the throw. Now, the throw was perfect. Would he have gotten him out if the throw's a little bit off? Would have been a bang-bang play, I think. I understand the risk. I don't think that's one you risk with most other guys. With Pinckney, I can kind of understand why you would try it with him. But that's one of those that, like, in a vacuum, where that ball's hit, where it's caught, you're pretty much 90% of the time saying, no, that's not worth the risk. I think it had to do with how fast Pinckney is and hoping that that might be enough and that the throw wouldn't be right on the money. Unfortunately, it was. The Nunez caught stealing, I think, is almost more troublesome because we know he leads the league in stolen bases, so he clearly knows how to run and how to be aggressive. But was that the time for it necessarily there in the close game? If you're going to do it, you got to know you're going to get it. And then he ends up in this, silly rundown that he tried to drag on as long as he could. He doesn't have that in him. You got to be sure before you take off. You got to know the pitcher is going to the plate. Don't let it happen the way that he did.
Yeah, and so much of his offensive value is the stolen base. Anytime he gets tagged out on an attempted steal, it hurts like extra because he's not giving you offensive value in really any other way. Like, he's not getting on base. He's not hitting for power. He's not really drawing walks. So it's like, okay, he needs to be near perfect when it comes to stolen bases. And so when he's not, you really feel that sting. So the Nats try to avoid a 3-game sweep. Game 3 of this 3-game series at the Mets Sunday afternoon at 1:40. Jake Irvin is listed as your probable Nats starting pitcher. You tell us what you think. Hit us up on X at Nats_chat. Hit us up on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email us natschatpodcast@gmail.com. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat, courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. Nats Chat is on the radio Sunday morning 9 to 10 on ESPN Richmond, which is 106.1 FM in the Richmond, Virginia area, and Sunday morning 9 to 10 on ESPN Radio 94.1 in the Virginia Beach area. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.
Now the set by Dion. Here's the pitch, swung on, hit in the air to left field. Pinckney has a play, back and now to his right, makes the catch. It's a 1-2-3 inning for left-hander Will Dion. He has been brilliant for the Nationals over 4 1/3 innings. One base runner allowed via walk, and he's fanned 7.
Sleep Number's new collections are designed to adapt to the changing nature of your life and your sleep needs. Whether it's the personalized comfort of the new Comfort Mode mattress, the targeted pressure relief of the Comfort Next mattress, or the Climate Collection that actively cools or warms to help you fall asleep and stay asleep.
And now, get early access to our biggest sale of the year. Save 25% on the new Comfort Next Luxe for a limited time. Only at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com.